This podcast is part of the Treksphere Network.
To find more Star Trek-related content, visit Treksphere.com. I couldn't decide which one to do, so I'm going to do both of them, and you can pick which one.
For the intro?
Yeah.
Okay, this is fun. This will be fun.
I know, like I've gone from having too few to too many. As you know, this is the Measure of an Episode, where it is our continuing mission to explore what makes Star Trek proper Star Trek, and not just a Star Trek version of if you give a mouse a cookie. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Paul. And the criteria by which we judge these episodes, number one, is there science fiction inherent to the plot or explored in the plot? Number two, is that science fiction unique or novel in some way? And number three, is there an ethical or moral dilemma broached by the episode, by either the characters or the plotline itself? I'm Paul.
And I'm Jonathan. I really like that comparison.
Okay. Well, what's the second one?
So, all right.
As you know, this is the Measure of an Episode, where it is our continuing mission to explore what makes Star Trek proper Star Trek, and not just deep cuts from other shows. I'm Strongbad.
Oh. It's like, is this the Cookie Monster? Maybe. I would like to have Strongbad singing the Cookie Monster song. I like Strongbad because it's new. It's almost like I have Strongbad out on as a special guest.
Right. Glad to have you on the show, Strongbad.
Oh, thanks, man. It's good to be here.
My favorite thing with Strongbad is when people would send him stuff in all caps, and so then therefore he would read them yelling.
Yes.
Okay, should we start talking about Star Trek now? Are we done with the intros? Wait, have we done all the... Oh, no.
No.
This week,
Hey.
we watched... Yeah, is it your thing? Okay,
yeah,
you
it's
go
my
ahead.
thing.
You go ahead.
This week, we watched probably the only Deep Space Nine episode that the Netflix blurb writer cared about. He must be a TNG fan because he's like getting ready to write. While Kira is overworked, Dr. Bashir forces her to take a vacation day.
Right.
And then he saw Will,
ensues.
and he was like, wait, what? Oh, this is great. What's going to happen next? And so he actually watched the whole episode, or at least the first half.
There's a point where she takes him to see the Defiant.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of, that gets them onto the Defiant.
Right.
But that must be where this person stopped watching because there's nothing about Cardassians in here.
Maybe, right.
Nothing about, it's obvious when Commander Will Riker comes aboard, from the Enterprise. It's like, I don't know if I would have written this that way.
Right.
I mean, I guess if you want to continue with the red herring, I don't know. I feel like the blurb writer stopped watching after he says, "I would really like to see the Defiant," and she says, "Okay," and then they jet off, and he's like, "Well, I've seen enough."
Or
that's good.
or they were on the Defiant, and she's showing him around. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, more DS9 boring stuff." Okay,
so boring.
Right. So the blurb says, when Commander William Riker from the Enterprise visits the station, an intrigued Kira takes him on a tour, particularly of the Defiant. Which is also weird because the way, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but the way that was set up, it was not particularly of the Defiant. She said, "Can I give you a tour of the station?" He was like, "Sure." "Oh, and don't you have that ship? Oh, what's it called?" It didn't seem like he particularly wanted to see the Defiant.
No.
He was just
it's the wrong word. Taking somebody on a tour, you don't take a tour particularly about something. You take it specifically about something. It should have been an intrigued Kira takes him on a tour specifically of the Defiant.
Right, but even that's wrong. I get what you're saying. If you're going to use that word, you should use the proper word of specifically, but it didn't feel like it was a tour where he specifically wanted to see the Defiant.
Didn't he say, though, "I would love to see the Defiant"?
Yeah, I interpreted that.
It's like, He's like, "Let's see if I can do this in one sentence. Let's see if I can get out of here in 30 seconds.
Right. I wonder what these blurbs are supposed to do, because I would have said something like where Kira sees a familiar face, but things are not what they seem. Obviously with a little bit more detail about the episode, but without giving a succinct version of the plot. I feel like that would be intrigue enough to get me into the episode.
Well, all you need is things aren't as they seem. That's all you need, right?
Right.
If you really are trying to coax people in with the blurb, these people who are just randomly trolling DS9 episodes buy the blurb to see which one sounds intriguing.
Right.
Oh, right here. This one even has the word intrigued in it. I'm in.
Well, yeah, you don't even need particularly of the Defiant. Give him a tour of the station, but things are not as they seem. The end.
Yeah. The end. You can even write the end. It wouldn't hurt it.
Yeah, there's lots of twists and turns. Anyway,
Well, okay, so this episode starts off with kind of a overtrodden trope.
the overworked
We-
officer.
Yes,
Yeah.
where they've been working so hard that they don't even know they've been working so hard, and they start snapping at commanding officers who are okay with it. And it's just, I don't know, it just feels so Mary Sue-esque. It's kind of the same thing when you ask a politician, what's your worst quality? And they say, I work too much. Mm-hmm. It's kind of that thing where, oh, these people are so idealistic and altruistic with their work that they can't even take time for themselves. And I'm so tired of it.
Right.
It's so unrealistic. I understand that there are some people who work themselves to the bone. I understand who people, but I don't think that usually exists in a seemingly utopianistic society, which they are much closer to than we are. So this idea that they wouldn't have some sort of life-work balance on this station, which they all seem to do. Cisco
Right.
seems to not work at all.
Well, and it's also just when the plot calls for it. You know, like there have been so many times where we've seen her relaxing. Again, we're watching it out of order, so I don't know when the last time was that happened. But she's constantly going down to Bajor. I mean, even in this episode, she says she is with someone else. So, you know, clearly she has a personal life beyond this.
Right. She just happened to be working so much she didn't realize it. I don't know, just something that doesn't exist in life to me. You know, it's like, I order you to go eat a hamburger. You know, you need to. And by the way, the next day she's back at work. So I
Right.
guess that was handled. Like all she needed was a hamburger and a good night's sleep, and she's back to good old Kira.
Oh, I guess she did. Oh, you're right. You're right. Okay. Sorry. I was thinking.
So it was that
right.
night. It was like that night that Bashir orders her to take a break, and then the next day she's on the ship. No, it's that night that she runs into Will Riker.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I guess it's not implied they have sex, right? No. She says we only talked.
I mean, she does suggest it, you know, like when she's like, we only talked for 3 hours. Oh, but
Right.
seriously, we only
I
talked.
hated it. I hated it. I hated that whole thing. But it's very clear that Dax has definitely had sex with William Riker, right?
Yes. Well,
I inferred.
yes, but
lots
see,
of
that's where I was
hanky-panky.
confused because like Riker, they never say this in the episode, but it's been headcanoned that Riker refuses to talk to O'Brien because that would expose him. But how did he know who Dax was? Like, I mean, is it just because he has the intel of the station and he knows
No,
who the
he
Trill
didn't.
is?
He didn't recognize her.
Right, but then she says stuff to him, and he's like, "I'm sorry, how are you, Dax?"
Maybe it's like when I have no example
Right.
to outline my point.
When you meet somebody you don't know, and they try to con you, and you're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, now I know your name."
That'll do. Oh, the example I was trying to think of was it's like when you read a strange word but don't know how to pronounce it, and you read it over and over and over again but never know how to pronounce it, and you go 15 years reading it knowing what the word means but you don't know how to pronounce it. That's what I was trying to say.
Hey, let me talk to that. I just ran into someone who was reading something for me aloud, and they read "Compromise," and
No, this did not happen.
it did. And because it was an adult reading to a group, and nobody else corrected, I didn't want to be the one to correct.
Oh, this wasn't a school child,
No.
also known as a student. Were they joking?
No, because it was
Interesting.
Yeah, it given the setting, it was not something that they would have been joking about.
That seems like such a well-used word,
Yes,
right?
yes, and you know, it's one of those things where I mean, maybe this person just didn't give it any thought because no, like my dad thought the word was misled for a very long time, and
Misled? What,
yeah.
What's
It's great. It actually works because it's the past tense, and the word was to misel, and you know you could be miseling someone and all that sort of thing. But then, like 20 years after he first read the word, he heard somebody say that they had been misled, and he goes, "Hang on."
Oh.
I know, isn't it great? He's like,
Is he a Russian coming from the parent-teacher convention?
I speak with teacher at parent-teacher convention. I have been misled. I need to rotate dishes to calm down.
I am from Indiana.
A suburb farm.
Are we still talking about Star Trek? How do we get there? Oh,
We're talking
'cause
about
he didn't
Chekhov.
recognize. Yeah, he didn't. He didn't recognize Dax, but then he did because he must have just read about her, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing I can think of because we've never seen Will meet them, and I love that they reference stuff that happened off camera with Will. Like, oh, where'd you come from? I was just off camera. I've been here the whole time. Like,
Waiting.
Yeah.
And waiting here. Nobody else saw me. So that whole thing where Kira is smitten with Riker.
that paid off in a horrible way. Continue.
Is this something that eventually it's not Will Riker? Spoilers, everybody. It turns out to be Tom Riker.
Yeah,
Not his twin, or Will Riker's twin, but his transporter twin.
yeah. His transporter clone. Yeah,
Yeah.
his transporter clone. Because
Right, clone. Yeah, you're right. He's identical down to the DNA, as Odo said. By the way, why don't people do this more? You'd think that if this was possible, that there would be more people cloning themselves.
It was a 1 in like a quadrillion chance of it ever happening. The distortion on the storm of the planet reflected the transporter beam back off of the atmosphere down to the planet. And so that Will Riker thought that he didn't make it back on. Like obviously because he was still on the planet, but he thought that because they were having trouble anyway. The transporter wasn't able to get him through, and so he was stuck on the planet.
Right, but you would think that now that we know this is possible, that they could recreate it in a somewhere. Some terrible scientist with no scruples could do this for people. I don't know why you'd want to clone yourself. I guess for this specific reason, you can just send off people to die, and then you still have yourself. Kind of like the spoilers, the plot to The Prestige.
Oh,
The
Prestige. Oh, right.
Did Will Riker or faux Riker? Did he specifically target Kira, or was she just around? What was the deal? Why not target? I mean, I guess he's sort of a ladies' man anyway, and he has obviously a reputation. So I don't remember. Has Kira met William Riker before?
I mean,
come up?
again, not on the show.
His approach to her was almost like, "Hey, remember me?
Yeah.
You know, remember last time I was here?" That kind of thing. And she
Yeah.
was sort of. She didn't. I got the impression she knew who he was. Had never met him before, though.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's no. Well, I guess where are you going with this?
I don't remember. That's
Okay.
the problem. I was hoping you would just run with it, and I would be rescued.
Well, I was just gonna say that there's no. I mean, whether or not she knew him before, it has no bearing on the plot.
You're so right. But what's great about this is that the big "oh snap, it's Tom Riker" moment is when Will, quote unquote, steals the Defiant, and they make away with it. By the way, where did the other people come from? I guess they were waiting on the Maquis. His Maquis helpers were just waiting, and then they came aboard. Okay, sorry, I should have watched the episode before talking about it. But anyway, the moment that I'm trying to get to is when he peels off like the side beard
Right.
things.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, does Tom Riker not have the ability to grow beard on his cheeks? Because you would think it wouldn't take that long to grow a William T. Riker beard.
Right.
A couple of weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
And this is a really big mission for Tom Riker because he's effectively going to kill himself for the sake of the Maquis cause.
Oh,
And-
I see where you're going with this. Okay.
So why let your whole ruse rest on some skin adhesive with a crappy beard thing, right? And he wasn't wearing it when he was pretending to be Will Riker. That was his actual beard, right? So I don't understand. It's not that big of a problem to grow out a beard for a very important mission that you will soon be dead after.
Right.
So grow out the beard. Don't put on crap. They might fall off. It'd be great if they just started falling off. You had to fix them every once in a while.
Well, yeah, I'm just picturing like while he's giving a tour of the Defiant, he's like having to look shocked and excited the whole time so he can keep his hands in his cheeks to keep his beard on.
And here we have the bridge.
Right. This is the command center?
And he has to keep him up there, so he's like starts patting him, you know, like, wow, I've never seen this before. Are you ill, Commander Riker?
Right. Or, do you mind? I have an old Valatian technique that helps me to calm down. I just need to.
He just keeps patting them while he's,
Right. I'm sorry. I didn't say what it was. A Valatian yoga technique. Or Valatian calming technique. There we go. Yeah, that's probably what it would have been.
Anything works.
Right.
As long as you put some unrecognizable word in front of a recognizable
Exactly.
word, it will always
But
work.
like to speak to your point, Geordi lost his beard with nary ado about anything. He was grizzly one day, baby smooth the next, and no one made any comments one way or the other. So why Riker, after 9 years, he couldn't decide to try something different and just shave off those sides? And nobody at DS9 would be the wiser except for O'Brien. And worst case scenario, he's not going to be like, that's not Riker.
Yeah, he would never do that
Right.
to his face. Yeah, or just shave it all off. They're not going to be like, wait a minute, William Riker has a beard. Who are you, sir? It's not. You're right.
Exactly.
No one's ever going to question it.
Right.
It was a lazy way to reveal that it's Tom Riker. Super lazy, right? And also very Knight Rider 80s B horror movie kind of way.
Well, and they didn't even acknowledge this, but I like that as the evil twin, he has the goatee.
I know. That must be some sort of... That can't be on purpose, or rather, being done earnestly. It must be a throwback, wink, wink, nod, nod type of thing. No?
Maybe. I mean, I saw nothing about it, but also, it's a very quick and easy way to show the viewers / fans that that's not Riker. The moment he shot her, they would be like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And then he calls in... And he's still and then he's lying to them about what happened to get the ship to detach. And then he takes it into warp. And everybody, all the audience from the 90s is going, what is Riker doing? And then he peels off one side very dramatically and then peels off the other side. And everybody goes, oh, that's not Will.
I should have seen this coming, though. I was like, oh, is this a shapeshifter type of thing? Are they going to do a Mission Impossible mask thing? And then I totally forgot about Tom Riker. I can't believe it. I'm so disappointed in myself.
Well, and that's what I was talking about at the beginning, depending on which intro you used. You had to have seen that one episode over the 7-season series of Star Trek The Next Generation to know who or what they're talking about.
I was kind of expecting Tom Riker to then at that point up to the YouTube card to see previous video where I talked about this one thing.
Right. For more information. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, why not keep it more of a secret? I felt like, oh, this is very interesting. Why would Will Riker, the number 2, the number 1 on the flagship ship, I guess you can just say flagship, of the Federation, Starfleet, why is he doing this? And keep it a secret for a while.
Right. Well, I mean, he did until he was alone on the Defiant with his Maquis crew.
Yeah, but then there was nothing new. Mm-hmm. Nothing, when they were being chased, they had a mission, they kind of figured out the mission fairly early, and there was no novelty after that moment where it's Tom Riker.
Right. Yeah, I feel like the reveal should have been... Don't take off the beard. I get that it's kind of a compromise. You don't want it to just be Will Riker saying, I'm Tom. And you don't want it to be such a drastic change, where it's a fully shaved face. And just having to say I decided to take my beard off or something like that.
Well, why not this? After Will Riker steals the Defiant, and they have no idea what's going on. Sisko says, we should talk to somebody at the Federation. Maybe they know. And then Will Riker answers.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was expecting. Yep.
Yeah. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm right here on Ryza,
right,
banging women. Me. Why would I stop at DS9?
Right. Why would I stop at
that
your
place sucks.
Outpost station? Yeah.
By the way, where the hell is Ryza? Where was he coming from or going to that DS9 would be on the way to Ryza? How far away is this place?
Right. Anyway, but yeah, they call and all their jaws drop and they do double and triple takes going, what?
Right. It's not like, oh, we could only pay for Tom Riker. we couldn't get Will Riker on the show.
Right.
He's way too expensive.
I mean, maybe they had to pay him double if he was portraying
That would be funny.
two characters. But yeah, like that would
It would take a 30-second call with him on a view screen. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm here. Like they have him in his too short bathing suit, about to dive into a pool, and it's like, no, I'm right here.
yeah.
Leave me alone, and that's it.
Well, and that would have been a great commercial break. And you don't even follow the Defiant off. Like it just goes to warp and just takes off, and everybody's at the station at D Space going, like, what happened? And so they call Starfleet. I mean, I guess why would they call Starfleet at that point?
Well, they might be checking in to say, hey, is there some sort of covert mission that we don't know about? Can you tell me about William Riker? He's like, what are you talking about? He's right here.
Right.
I'm having lunch with him, or something. It'd actually be a really fun way to maybe, if they still had it, or imply that he's still on the Enterprise somewhere.
Right.
And then it pans over and Geordi kind of walks by in the background, and then Deanna Troi kind of gets something from the cupboard.
There's just all of these like little cameos, but
all these little cameos.
it's like they're stunt doubles, so they didn't have to pay the actual actors.
Men in wigs.
Yeah.
But you never call attention to it.
Right.
It's just, the whole crew is still on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
And you hear off screen, Jean-Luc Picard being like, Will, get off the phone. We're in the middle of something right now, What are you doing?
Right.
So, I don't know. That would have been a very easy way to fix that without this super cheesy, I'm going to take the beard thing
The
off.
villain reveal. Yeah.
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 Are we just missing the point, though?
I don't think so. I mean, because after they reveal him, they're like, oh, wait, maybe the audience doesn't know who that is. And so then they cut to Deep Space Nine, where Odo is debriefing Sisko and Gul Dukat about who Tom Riker is.
Right. See, that would have at least, this whole mystery of who's on the ship would have been so much more fun to reveal if they had the phone call with Will Riker, they didn't know what was going on. If they explored that mystery for a little bit longer, for another act.
Right.
Because, okay, so let's getting into this. I think that this was a proper Star Trek episode, but it just wasn't a good one.
Oh, see, and I think the opposite. I think it was a great episode, barring the Tom Riker part. Just the fact that Sisko was helping the Cardassians track down and potentially destroy a Federation ship was a great episode to watch, but I don't think it was proper Star Trek because all of the sci-fi that happened was in another episode.
You're talking about the Tom Riker, William Riker duality. Yeah, so for me, the science fiction in this is very often characters were using, like Kira was sabotaging the ship with creative ways, which in turn created a way for the Defiant to be tracked. And I felt like seeing the Kardashian bridge was very interesting to me, and this whole idea of the Obsidian. The
Obsidian Order, yeah.
That they had these new ships that were not Cardassian, and I don't know. I felt like there was little bits of science fiction sprinkled in for me that was enough to satisfy the criteria. And it was kind of novel with the cloaking thing. I mean, they didn't dive deep into it, but I felt like it wasn't just a lot of talking in a room, which there was plenty of that in this episode. But they did sprinkle in some exploration of science fiction, and obviously the end is what is Tom Riker going to do? Is he going to fulfill what he set out to do and kill himself for the fate of the Maquis, or is he going to help his crewmen?
Oh yeah, the dilemma was definitely there.
Yeah.
From my perspective of can this be transplanted into another show that isn't sci-fi, and I would say that it 100% could. The hostage figured out a way to slow down the criminals' action and let people know where they were.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to use that only as the teller that sort of, is there a real life analog this could be translated into? I feel like that to me is somewhat tenuous, because we could probably talk our way from any science fiction enough. Like we could circuitously get there if we absolutely needed to.
Right, but I don't think this requires any heavy lifting to get there. And
yeah, it was light. The science fiction was light, and maybe it wasn't really part of the episode. Well, it kind of was. I don't know.
You're right.
They
like
had a cloak.
Yeah, you know what?
It's sort of on the. It's like I'm kind of we're splitting hairs here. In
Right.
terms of-
It's light enough that you're willing to take it, and it's light enough that I was saying no. But I think the fact that I thought it was such a technobabble, but because it just seemed weird that she could use the replicator to blow out one of the conduits.
Well, she's kind of a Mary Sue in the
Right.
show.
Right. But the fact that they did explain what she did to make it happen, and Riker even calls her out on it, saying that was really clever or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'll concede. It is a light moment, but it is sci-fi and not magic. So,
and they have that moment where ostensibly there's the Defiant which is attacking some Cardassian outpost, and Sisko calls it out. It's like, well, they're pretending to be the Defiant, but it's not them, because I didn't know that Sisko could read Cardassian, but he looks at the screen and says, oh, these don't actually match.
yeah,
And it's not them. And it's like, oh, you're brilliant. That someone could be masquerading as somebody else. It's never been done before.
right.
And then they're like, no, that's the actual Defiant. And so they're like, thank you, Sisko.
Yeah. I forgot about that part.
Nominate you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of novel. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, oh, the Federation now is a cloakable ship. How contentious. And another word too.
Well, and it's so funny how I don't know if it's all in this series or if it all started because of DS9, but the Cardassians have the Obsidian Order, the Romulans have the Tal Shiar, the Starfleet has Section 31. All these groups, all these organizations have this kind of seedy underbelly, this covert group that goes a little bit more rogue than their regulations and orders will allow.
Right. For the sake of plot.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't make any sense to have some kind of section. By the way, are there 30 other sections?
No,
And what are they for?
It comes from Enterprise. It doesn't come from Enterprise because Enterprise came after, but they explain the origin of it because there is a section in the Starfleet Treaty that talks about these things. And we even watched the episode. It says like under Section 31, it says blah blah blah. And we either focus on that or that's the one that we ignore or something like that. I think it's the one they focus on.
I don't know. It feels like the idea in this particular time to have some sort of department that is isolated, cordoned off, where they can do anything they want, where the actual people in the Federation don't know what they're doing, and they just are kind of this own little faction of people who are kind of a part of the Federation, but actually do whatever they want. Same thing is happening with the Cardassians. It doesn't make sense that this would happen.
Right.
Right. It seems like at that point you would need everybody to be on the same page.
Yeah.
At least with Starfleet. Who knows with the Kardashians what they're doing? But anyway, it doesn't seem like there would be a CIA of the future. But it makes sense because it's an interesting plot line.
Right. Right.
Kind of like the time cops of the Federation, which I'm still waiting for my show, people.
They just got to get Van Damme to sign the contract.
If they could get him on to a Star Trek show, reprising his role as time cop,
Oh my gosh! Like
the world would be right.
the cross universe and the canon that comes from that is just
Oh God. But I don't know. Maybe Picard too will address this. There's apparently time travel. I refuse to watch the trailer. I do not want to be spoiled for most likely a show out that will be disappointing. But I want to be disappointed in the moment.
right
And not
on your own
pre-disappointed.
terms. Yeah, don't
On
let other
my
people
own
disappoint things for you.
Exactly.
Anyway, those two moments, I'm willing to change my answer to make it sci-fi because I did enjoy the episode.
But see, I'm willing to change my answer too. Like that's how
right.
that's how thin it is. It just seems like I guess because you could see it totally just being we're chasing Thomas Riker and he's hiding in nebulas and we have to find him, and then he and Kira have their hearts to heart.
They're
How do you pluralize heart to heart? Heart to hearts?
oh like they had multiple heart. They had more than
Multiple
one heart
hearts to heart. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Having their more than one heart to heart. And then Sisko and Gul Dukat have their more than one heart to heart. And he has we get a little bit of sense of there's some sort of conspiracy happening with the lady who I didn't quite understand why she was there. And
Which, by the way, that was Captain Garrett from yesterday's Enterprise.
man, they're incestuous with their incestuous or cannibalistic.
Incestuous.
Yeah,
Okay. They keep it in the family. They don't eat them.
So it could have been much more bland in terms of it being a DS9 episode. So I was giving it the benefit of the doubt, but it just wasn't a lot, I guess.
Right, but I feel like it's enough. You're talking about the warp core signature being faked and the explanation of how she blew out the conduits. Like for me, and I think we're in agreement on this. Like they can't just use sci-fi things in a magical way. There has to be some sort of technical explanation for it. And
right, which I agree with. And they seem to satisfy that just in a perfunctory way, but they did satisfy.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe by the end of this episode, we'll come to a better conclusion. But as of right now, okay, so are we saying yes or no?
I'm saying yes to both now. Like you reminded me of the cloak signature, which was actually a moment where I was thinking, oh, that's a really clever way, and that is kind of a sci-fi aspect. And then the explanation of how she blew out the conduit, I did remember. I just wasn't thinking about the explanation of it. I was just thinking she sabotaged it. But
right.
He did use an explanation, which was sci-fi. So that those two things are enough, and they are important to the plot because it sends the Cardassians in the wrong direction, and it gives them now a trailing signature that they have to be careful about.
Right. It's just that the intrigue in this episode was so dilute that I was left wanting more, and not in a good way.
Sure.
And I just wanted there to be more mystery or something like, what is Will Riker doing? What is Thomas Riker doing? I mean, it was kind of that where they were saying, where is he going? He's going to this obsidian, whatever, and or this planet, and we don't know why. It's totally.
Right. But we did know
blank.
why at that point. We knew they didn't.
They tell us?
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't know? Oh, I probably shouldn't have been checking my email.
No, he had intelligence that the Obsidians were building ships there on a massive scale. And
so I missed something.
Yeah, so we were told that, and then the Cardassians they said, well, let's follow them, and the lady from the Obsidian Order said, no, you are not allowed to go, and we will fire at any Cardassian ships that head that way.
Why? And they're like, why? And she's like, she just smiles and backs into the darkness of the bridge.
Yeah.
that was weird. But I wanted more of that.
Right.
Like, why did that have to be the end?
Well, again, it's one of those things, and I worry that we're going to see this more with Star Trek, where we learn information sooner than other people do, and then those other people are told that information.
It's our thing that we talk about a lot, where we're watching a scene where we're waiting for for characters to catch up to the audience.
Yeah,
because we know everything. We know everything. Mm-hmm. Why are we getting this repeated to us now?
Yeah, this is why the episode with Nagilum was so great.
By the way, that episode is not as well liked as I thought it would be.
Right.
Some people find it to be not as good and a bit bottle episode-y and lacks explanation, which it kind of does, but
sure,
I don't know. It was odd to find out that people didn't like that episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think given Star Trek for what it is, like especially at the time, if to watch it in the series in that order, it is bottle episode-y. The whole thing, even on the other ship, takes place on the bridge. There's no conflict. The only part that is any kind of interest is when he says, I'm going to start killing people off. And then they spend like 45 minutes talking in the ready room about how they want to handle that.
But in defense of that episode, there is quite a good mystery. We're in this void. We don't understand it. We can go forever. They have the whole beacon scenario, which I always find, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I just like those things.
No.
Yes, it wasn't plot heavy.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, it had a mystery that they didn't know how to solve, and that was fun to watch them solve it. Because these are the best of the best, yeah. And so to actually watch them live up to their names was pretty great.
Right, and that's something they didn't do in this episode. they did not, or in this DS9 episode called Defiant. By the way, we just saw the last episode we watched was an Enterprise episode where one of the main ships is called the Defiant.
Oh, you're right.
How is this keep happening? I feel like it's still amazing, but I'm so numbed to it. That
right.
It's like when you drive a Lamborghini around for 10 years. Like, yeah, I drive a Lamborghini.
Right. Sometimes you forget. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This particular episode just felt like, wow, you have Thomas Riker, who is somebody who we know very little about what he's been doing since. I think wasn't there one other Next Gen episode with him in it? I can't remember.
There, to my knowledge, he's only in 2.
Okay, so there is another one where he reprises his role as 2 people, where Jonathan Frakes is 2 people again.
No. Like, there's 2 episodes total of Tom Riker. There's the one on TNG, and then there's this one. Yeah.
Oh. So, yeah, we don't know what Thomas Riker has been up to.
Right.
How interesting. Why not make this a 2-parter?
Well, that was the original idea for it. In fact, Rick Berman even said after the episode and he was being interviewed, like, we are definitely going to see more of Tom Riker. But then for, what season was this? 3? For season 4, they said, like... They very much shot it down. They sent around a list to the writers of these are the things we will not be addressing in season 4, and on that list was Tom Riker.
I wonder if that was because Jonathan Frakes did not want to be on the show anymore.
Maybe, right? Like maybe he was just kind of Star Trek out, and so he needed a break from it.
Maybe he wanted to focus on directing, and I know that he
Fact or
has
Fiction.
become a director.
Yeah. Maybe,
so-
and it may not even have been that he didn't want to. It was just they didn't want to bother with trying to figure out his schedule and coordinate it, and so they were just like, let's not do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would have been. I mean, he's as far as we know, he's now life in prison in the
I know, he's just slaving away in a Cardassian labor camp.
right. I wonder if Will ever thinks
terrible.
about him. Like, is
Probably
he
not.
Yeah, I mean, is he like, thank God I don't have to worry about that anymore, or is he, is he like, I wonder whatever happened to my halfway through my life brother.
See, I wonder if that happened to me, would I think of my counterpart as a brother or as something else? Right? Because the closest thing to that is a brother
Right.
in terms of what we're capable of now. And I wonder, because in a sense he is you, and I don't know if there would be this element of, not jealousy, but I'm still me. This is my life. Like you don't have, because suddenly there's a person with claim to your life.
Right.
Because he is you.
Yeah.
And so I wonder what that would be like to know there's another person who would defend what they think as their life too, just as vehemently as you would. So I wonder that would not, that in that aspect, it would not be a brotherly relationship. I can see how it would be at best contentious, at worst murderly.
Right. I mean, in the episode with him when he first shows up, it is very antagonistic. They're both super, well, Will is upset that there's this person claiming to be him, and Tom is upset that Will got the life that he didn't get to have.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense that Tom would become a terrorist or become kind of that outspoken conspiracy theorist. It just makes sense, I guess.
Right.
It felt right that, William Riker is the goody two-shoes. I'm the one who's making a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he plays it safe. I'm the one who's going to die a hero. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And maybe there is an element of that in Will Riker, and Will Riker chose the other direction, which is I'm going to play it by the book. I'm going to be an upstanding citizen. And so naturally, when Thomas Riker knew that he was Thomas Riker, that he would take the other route.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I just felt it was very light. Could have been more intrigue, a little bit more mystery. I didn't care. It was very odd that Thomas Riker chose to sexually assault Kira before being beamed into the labor camp.
So weird.
I don't know. It's like she didn't necessarily like that. There wasn't a chemistry between the two of them.
But there wasn't a lack of chemistry. There wasn't really any like animosity towards each other. But she was just like, I will. I mean, maybe he was like, who knows when I'm going to get another kiss.
That's what I felt. I felt like he was taking advantage a little bit, and he still looks like William Riker. So
see, and I would have set it up that his helmsman was a little bit more comfortable with him, and that's where he got his kiss from. I would have established that she was a larger part in his life because she kept calling him Tom.
Yeah, that's sort of the same relationship that Robert Beltran or Chakotay in Voyager in that 100th episode where he has a girlfriend, and he's sort of automatically like they obviously work together, but they have a relationship as well,
right? And
that would have felt very familiar in that sense.
Yeah, and her fighting this decision, saying like, no, this is not what the Maquis does, and blah blah blah, and and Riker does concede to Kira's point that there's no reason to destroy the ship and sacrifice all the lives when all of them are going to be safe, and he just has to go to jail, basically.
Right.
And then he gets the kiss from her and not Kira, and then that's where the episode ends.
Right. And she's like, let's go back to the Federation. It was such an abrupt end, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would have been better if they had not played the whole thing of, it's William Riker, so therefore you must be into him at the beginning.
Right.
Because he's so handsome and outgoing. And that beard.
Yeah.
He's got beard for days.
Right. Yeah, but it still smells like Deanna.
Okay, so I'm a no, yes? Yes?
I don't know.
No? And you're a no... you're
yes. Yeah, I'm a yes.
You're yes. I guess if we were still doing halfways, I would do a halfway, but we're not, so I have to choose the other one. I was left wanting more, not in a good way.
Right. So you're saying, yes, it's proper, but it wasn't good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would write a dissent against myself if I could, but I feel like it's so on the what do you call it? Balance beam.
Right. I think, if I'm understanding you right, you enjoyed it, but you were just wishing there had been more of something, either more of Riker or more of like the discovery of what was happening on the Defiant.
They had set up such an interesting playground to play with. Damn it. I keep doing that.
Allow myself to introduce.
I keep doing that every episode now. I felt like they had created an interesting little microcosm to work with of Star Trek, and they just didn't deliver. It just felt very dilute to me. And so, yes, I kind of enjoyed it. It was kind of fun to see the intrigue of, it is Tom Riker. What's he going to do? Why is he doing this? And then they have the Maquis. They invoke the Maquis, which I don't think happens that often on DS9.
Yeah, no.
So that was interesting. So we got a little bit of world. I just wanted more world, less talky.
Sure, but they didn't do that.
They didn't do that. I'm a no, yes, and you're a yes. I feel like that balances out the universe.
Okay, but you keep saying you're a no, yes, and based on what we've been saying, like it should be a yes, no.
Well, it just keeps. It's like a very long pole balancing on a very fine point. Like it's gonna oscillate every once in a while. That's where I am. See, now I'm a yes. Damn it.
We talked about it too long.
We need to end the episode. So,
all right, let's see what we're watching next.
Okay. The Star Trek Voyager, Season 4, Episode 7, Scientific Method. The Voyager crew is invaded by an alien race conducting dangerous experiments. So this might actually be one of my favorite episodes ever. I don't know if that's true, but it could very well be one of my favorite episodes of Voyager. As you know, this is Measure of an Episode, but also as you know, Star Trek has gone off of Netflix, and so we are no longer privy to the Netflix blurbs. And so the blurb you just heard was the Amazon Prime blurb, which they look to be more succinct.
More succinct, and probably cover a little bit the episode a little bit better because it's exactly the same as the one on Hulu.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah,
and we didn't do the homework. Well, I guess we can do it on a next gen to see if they are the same on Netflix as they are on Amazon or Hulu.
Right.
So, anyway, I'm kind of looking forward to this. It could be good.
Yeah.
Could be my favorite.
Is it your favorite so far? Is it your favorite of all time? Let's find out.
I don't know. We don't know.
Right. Anyway, I've been Jonathan.
And I've been Paul.
And this has been The Measure of an Episode.
But you already knew that.
Goodbye.